Hi, this is Pastor Deborah Curry here with Repairers of the Breach Broadcast Podcast. We praise God that you're taking the time to listen to me, and I pray that the words that I give you or the host words that come before you would enlighten, enhance, anoint everything God can allow for you to have. I pray that you receive.
Hey, how are you guys doing? This is Repair of the Breach, owned by Miss Deborah Curry, brought to you by WadeWorksStudios, and I'm your host, Adolfo Gracia. And I just had a variety of topics that I wanted to talk about today. There's nothing in specific. It'll be maybe a little all over the place, but it's just a bunch of ideas that have just been rambling through my head. And, feel free at the end of the video to leave comments, message me on Facebook and Instagram if I've, put out there in our previous videos, and tell me what you guys think. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was something a friend of mine, my friend Ty, brought up a few days ago. And I thought it was something we could discuss. And it was, how do you keep yourself from getting a big head? Right? So to elaborate on what that means, it's more of how do you keep yourself from being engulfed in arrogance, or being caught up in the human hubris, or just simply feeling that you're too big for your britches, however you want to define it as. And one thing that whenever I discuss topics, there's two things I like to go about doing. One, there's always the religious standpoint that you want to stand at. And then there's also, what's the other point that I could put in there? There's also the more universal terms. A lot of people, some people look at things religiously. Other people who aren't so religious or, feel spiritual, they believe in astrology, your zodiacs. They believe in your minerals, your stones, stuff of that nature. I like to give, I guess, a realistic, sometimes a holier than thou answer. And then sometimes I like to give the answer that's more easier to understand and parallel both. So the first thing I wanted to go into is the holier than thou aspect of to keep yourself from getting a big head. For those that look at religious doctrine, you look at whatever the hierarchy is, or whatever that name of God would be, whether it be Jesus Christ, whether it be God, whether it be Allah. And I think that whenever you're a part of those religions, the best thing to do is to take in your doctrine into account. I feel that's one of the best ways to keep yourself within balance. So what I'm saying is that if you're a Christian, I guess is the easiest parallel for me, is that if you're a Christian, you want to be following Christ. When you look at the actions of Christ, you look at how he took bread and spread it with many. You look at the fact that he sat at tables with the sinners, etc. And then he never boasted himself upon others. It was more so if that is who you say I am, or simply saying who he was rather than using who he was in order to condescend upon others. A lot of times I feel like people with different social economic standings, they use that as he doesn't make as much money as me. He doesn't live in the house I live in. He doesn't have a nice car. And they find themselves kind of condescending upon that person, or they don't even find what they have to say important. And what I have to say to that is that one thing we always have to keep into account is you can always learn something from anywhere and anyone as long as you know what you're listening for. And I have a funny story. One of my family members were telling me, and don't laugh too hard at this one, but I always wondered growing up, why is this family member so good at fixing cars? Like, anytime I needed something, whether it was a brake change, whether it was an oil change, whether it was changing brake calipers, whether it was, changing your alternator, they always had a solution, and it just baffled me, and I didn't understand how. And I guess the best example of this, of you being able to learn something from anywhere, is that they told me that they learned how to fix cars from, I don't like using the term like junkie or J or user or substance abuser. I like to, just people who hang around different areas or, they look poor. When I like to refer to them as locals, so keep up with me. But he told me a local at a gas station, this is maybe 92, 93. It was an older guy, and all his life he had worked at a dealership. I think it was Ford or Chevy. I don't really remember. But you could never be able to tell. He had a very bad substance abuse issue, and he was always at the gas station. So one day he says he pulls up to that gas station, and I think his car was running hot or something like that. And the guy comes over. He says, "Hey, I'll help you. Just buy me a beer." So I want you to take into account what I said is that you can learn something from anyone and anywhere. You just have to know what you're listening to. And you don't ever want to use your position in life to condescend. Sometimes you need to. Now, don't put this in every situation. we're not using this universally. We're just taking this to account to open the spectrum of thought. You know what I mean? To keep people from being so tunnel vision and narrow-minded. When you're narrow-minded, you miss out on so many things. So he was in a position of help, and the guy says, "I'll help you. Just buy me a beer." Lo and behold, this guy had been working at a dealership all his life. You would never be able to tell by the way he dressed. He talked completely normal. You'd never be able to tell by his social economic status or anything like that. You'd never be able to tell. He bought him that beer, and lo and behold, from years on end, that same individual buying him a beer or tipping him here and there a few dollars taught him how to fix cars. And now that family member of mine is in his 50s and can do anything on a car. So that was just one of those things that a story I had, and one of those things I wanted to talk about. But to get back to the topic of to keep yourself from having a big head, to give a more universal answer, we kind of already, elaborated on a little bit, but one thing you always want to do whenever you're thinking about certain situations, and this will go into the other topics of the day, is just every step that you take, you want it to be righteous. You want every move that you make, you want it to be done with good intent. Not to say that every decision that you do make will be the right, but that's something you want to pray against, to always make sure that you, your family, friends, and loved ones make the right decision the first time, every time, and on time, but to get back to it, it's just that you want to make sure you're moving righteously. You want to make sure that you're taking those appropriate steps and doing things with good intentions, because anybody with good intentions is going to win in the end. And that's just my personal point of view. I'm pretty sure there are other people who contrast or don't agree or what have you. But everything that you do and everything that you put out comes back in the cycle of energy. This is, the more universal point of view. So it comes back in a cycle. So meaning that if I'm condescending upon others and I'm being nasty towards others based off how they look or how they talk, it's going to come around to you. There's always a bigger fish in the sea. So say, for instance, you got $5,000 in the bank, you $10,000, $15,000 in the bank. Don't get that big head and feel like you're above anyone else. Why does money make you bigger than someone else? Why does this jewelry that you're wearing make you bigger than someone else? Why does this car, etc., these material things, even if you're more intelligent, how does that make you better? And that's one thing about integrity that I would like to expound upon just a little bit, is that one thing I was taught about integrity is doing the same thing in the dark that you would do in the light. Don't go on social media. You gave a local. We're not going to say homeless or anything like that. We're going to use the word local. Don't do that and post it on social media looking to be accepted, looking to be praised, look to be pat on your back. Realistically, I don't think that's something to be commended regardless. I mean, that should be something you're doing every day, especially if you're somebody who follows religious doctrines such as being Christian. That being Christian is being charitable. And even if you're not, and we look at, the more universal approach, you want to do good things because you want nothing but good around you. You don't want somebody harming you. You don't want somebody doing anything to hinder you, to detriment you. You know what I mean? So what you're going to do is you're going to always make sure that you're that best person that you can be. I was going to go another way, but I'm going to say that. So with that being said, it's like everything you do, you want to make sure that you're consistently putting out positivity to get that positivity, you know. So, but I'll leave that there. All of this is up to, personal opinions, and this is mine. But I guess like the next subject that I wanted to get to is just another, I am in the private security field. So, I'm at a large number of venues. I've been everywhere from Bankhead to Buckhead, just to be honest, from Clayton County to Atlanta, where most places that you can think of in the Atlanta metropolitan area, I've worked. And there's a couple reoccurring things that you're going to always hear about when you're standing in circles talking to people, or, one thing that I do on my job, I get paid to people watch. I'm customer service before anything else. So with people watching, you hear about relationships a lot, So when you're hearing about these relationships, it's sad that in our age group, let's keep it there. In our age group, it seems as though popular culture, I guess that's the one way to start, and just the images that we want to keep up, maybe, or maybe it's that we're too caught up in desire. Maybe it's that, the way we were taught or brought up on this particular subject isn't the best. Because I remember growing up, and I always used to hear the term, never put all your eggs into one basket, and you think about that, and there's a couple ways that you can take it. You can take it in a more simplistic manner and say like, okay, I don't want to trust somebody too much. Let me make sure that I'm still evaluating the situation. Let me make sure that I give time the ability to test that individual. Let me allow these situations and these experiences to draw us closer and to really give me a sense of being able to trust them rather than giving away trust so easily. Or you could take it how I did growing up. You can be like, nah, I'm not going to date one woman. I'm going to like see this person. I'm going to see that person. I'm going to see this person. And I don't feel bad about saying that because it's honest. And one thing you have to be with yourself is honest. And if you want to give anyone else any type of insight, any type of advice, enlightenment, whatever word you want to use, it has to be raw, and it has to be honest, and it has to be blunt. That's not really something that you can hide. So this is the attitude of your 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I don't necessarily know when I broke that phase, somewhere like maybe around 19, 20. Who knows? I don't know. But I feel as though in our age bracket, unfortunately, it doesn't stop at these teenage years. It doesn't stop at those early adult years. It seems as though, how should I put it? We all have insecurities to some degree or another. And it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. It seems like everyone around these days, no matter who you talk to some degree or another, there are insecurities. Whether it be hurt that brought on those insecurities, whether it be, no, let's leave it there. Being hurt by one another. You know what I mean? So this is more of a opening up the mind state of ending the cycle of hurt in relationships. Now, let's not only go there, but let's look at the fact that a relationship doesn't necessarily have to be between man and female. A relationship doesn't necessarily have to be intimate. A relationship is any exchange of energy, love, thoughts, ideologies between you and another individual. You and your mother have a relationship. You and your cousins have relationships. Your best friend is a relationship. You know what I mean? The person that you're, would like to be intimate with or have been intimate with, That's a relationship. Those are exchanges of those energies, you know. So one thing I want people to realize is that we have to end the cycle of hurt in those relationships, because not only in the relationships that are more partnerships or intimate does that hurt play out, but even, say for instance, in the sense that your mother or your cousin or brother or sister, look at a family member. These are people where there's a sense of more unconditional love. These are people in a sense where you're going to really deal with them. In most cases, you're going to deal with them regardless. You guys fuss, you fall out, but you're going to come back to a consensus in which you want to deal with one another again. You're going to love each other. I'll always love you, but you get on my nerves. You know, those are some of those aspects that you should take into your relationships or partnerships. Let's just use that word to overview. Those are the type of ideas that you should be taking into those too. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want to purposely do harm to your mother. You wouldn't want to purposely do harm to your father, cousin, sister, brother, uncle. You might do something unintentionally, but you're not malicious with those actions. You know what I mean? You already see that, you know, you're consistently doing something that bothers your family member. It's going to affect how you two interact with each other. You know, your mother's, you know, your mom, sister, daddy, cousin, they're going to have less patience for you. You know what I mean? They're not going to really want to be as jovially as usual. They might not want to take you to get ice cream or buy you something on your birthday. You know what I mean? Take those same ideas into a relationship with a partner, because what you do to that other person, whether it be male or female, is that you change their attitude universally. You know, you have women these days who are hyper independent and become unattractive to other males. You know what I mean? You have women these days who are broken and insecure, and not to mention you have men these days to parallel it who are too prideful. They have so much masculinity in them, it becomes toxic. You know? So that's how I would parallel that. But you know, what you're doing to that opposite gender or that opposite person is that you're harming them. You're hurting them. You know what I mean? You're bringing down that negativity on them. You know, so it creates a cycle. And what that cycle does is, say for instance, Bill dates Jill and Bill hurts Jill's feelings. You know what I mean? Jill now is not only hurt, so that hurt, you know what I mean, can be taken out on her friends. It can be taken out on her family. But she now takes that hurt into her next relationship. So let's say Bill hurt Jill, for instance, right? And then Jill takes that hurt into her next relationship, and she's insecure. She's unsure of herself. She's unsure of that next partner, and now she hurts him. That's where the cycle starts. And that's where the cycle continues, because it's just one hurt person hurting another. And that's all that's happening is that energy is just spreading and it's getting to the next person. And one thing we have to realize is that positive energy is just as infectious as negative energy. The same way that, you know, these negative energies can spread, or the same way positive energies can spread. So to get back to what I've said before is just making sure that every step you take is righteous. You know what I mean? And we're not looking at it religiously. Make sure every step that you take won't be a decision that you end up regretting. You don't want to do something and have to look back in life and have that negative emotion in you now that you regret. You wish you could have done it differently. You wish that it wouldn't have gone this way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that you don't want to have is just the weight of knowing that you've hurt somebody else and knowing that you wronged someone on your shoulders, and you have to carry that with you. And even in the instances where you know that they're out there and they don't want to communicate with you and they don't want to talk to you anymore, to know that you've done something to hurt them and that hurt will more than likely spread to other people. But you never want to also be in a situation where you've hurt someone and then you go to console them and you go to reconcile that issue, and it's hard because now you have to see them hurt and know that you're the cause of it. And to get to the point in which that you should have already been at or wanted to be, you make that path 2 times harder. But I'll leave that subject there. So out of all the subjects you guys hear, feel free to message me. Feel free to comment on YouTube, whatever you guys want to do. Just letting me know how you guys feel. And if you have any idea or you have anything that contrasts me, feel free to definitely let me know. You know, I'm not one person to feel as though my answer is the one all be all answer. And if you can enlighten me and if I'm tunnel visioned, definitely do that. I'd love it. But I guess the next thing I will want to go to, which kind of like parallels in a way, or, you know what I mean, would it be associated with breaking the cycle of hurt, is breaking generational curses. You know what I mean? One thing that I feel as though we allow ourselves to be products of our environment. And a product of your environment doesn't necessarily have to be physical. Your environment doesn't necessarily have to be Atlanta, Georgia. Your environment doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, New York City. You know what I mean? The environment is essentially the people around you and what's going on around you. So it's bigger than just what's physically around you. And with generational curses, it has to do with your family. One thing you have to take into account is that, I guess a quote that I can think of is that the sins of our forefathers are the lessons of today. Or they say learn from your history so you're not doomed to repeat it. You know, I just want some of you guys to really look into your family histories and look into the situations. Not, a matter of fact, just not even generational curses. Just really look at everything that's going on in your life and going on in the lives around you and learning not the hard way. Nobody wants to fall and bump their head. You know, nobody wants to be in a situation where they feel as though, oh yeah, well, screw it. No, let's not do that. What happens, whatever happens of what's happening. Let's not do that. Let's open our minds and let's look at the situations that's going on around them. And say, for instance, you look at it, something so simple as you driving past somebody, and say, for instance, you got to go to work. You know what I mean? You can't help this person. You got to do what you got to do because you got to make sure that you provide for yourself before you can provide for anybody else. You know what I mean? You can't harm you shouldn't be harming yourself in order to help anybody else. But you see somebody on the side of the road and their car is broken down. And this is as simple as example I can get. You could look at that negative situation and simply take away from it. Okay, let me make sure every other day, every week, I'm checking my oil. You know what I mean? Let's make sure that when I'm getting my oil checked, when I get my oil changed, let me make sure they're checking my power steering fluid, my brake fluid, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? And that's a simple way I can do it. You look at what somebody else is going through, you take that and you think about that as, what can I learn from it? You know? And to expound upon that, I'm getting another idea in my head is, what can I learn from it needs to be the primary subject in experiences in life. Because they say that knowledge is something with value that can't be taken from you. And experience in life gives you that knowledge. So instead of looking at situations and reacting to it emotionally, because that's what most people tend to do, that's the status quo per se, you know, we respond emotionally. If somebody calls you a name, we tend to respond to it and we tend to think, yeah, we'll bump you too. Don't lie. You know what you do. But How about when we're in those situations, maybe we instead of responding emotionally, we step back, we walk away, and we look at what we can learn from it. Because a lot of the times we don't know what people are going through behind closed doors. You never know what people are going through. You never know what they have going on at home, whether it be somebody passing, whether it be their job stressing them, whether it be money problems stressing them. You know what I mean? And that's really big because that's the reason for a large percentage of divorces, is money issues. But you step back and you decide not to exchange that negative energy and you see what you can learn from that situation. You say, for instance, you got a friend and your friend, steals from you, or your friend talks behind your back. You know what I mean? Instead of responding emotionally and being like, oh, yeah, well, I want to fight or I want to fuss, screw you, screw this, screw that. What can you learn from it? Maybe we should take the first lesson of the situation. Maybe that's not your friend. Maybe that's not somebody that you need to be around. You know what I mean? Which, luckily goes in with another topic that I have sitting right here. You always want to build a good team around you. So with that being said, like, you want to always make sure that you're learning from every situation. Say, for instance, your car breaks down and you find out what the root of the problem is. Say, for instance, your axle. Okay, maybe I should avoid the speed bumps. Maybe I shouldn't be speeding over the speed bumps. It goes as simple as to that, to all the way up to, okay, I'm in a domestic violence situation. Maybe I shouldn't have been petty today. You know what I mean? Maybe I shouldn't have. Okay, she wanted to flirt with a guy. Maybe I shouldn't have met it with confronting that guy and trying to fight, or screaming at her and fussing and fighting and arguing, and now we don't put hands on one another. So it goes from the littlest thing to the largest thing, But overall, the moral of that story is to simply take the experiences in your life, and learning from them rather than other people having to learn from you. You know what I mean? Making sure that, once again, you're putting out positivity or you're moving righteously. You know what I mean? But to get back into that topic of building a proper team around you, we have to be able to assess the people around us. We have to be able to look at who we are, where we should be, where we are, and how we want to get to where we should be. You know what I mean? Everyone deserves positivity. Everyone deserves happiness. But I feel as though a lot of the times we're not putting the proper conductors around us. You know what I mean? Whether it be from the partner that you're with, whether it be from the friends that you're around, or the people that you call your friends per se. All these relationships in your life that you're choosing to deal with affect your aptitude in life. You can't say, I want to be a millionaire, but you're hanging around with people who don't inspire you. You're having conversations every day about, yeah, Susie's screwing Jim and Jim's dating John, And that's that, you know what I mean? And that sounds crazy, but come on, guys, we're in Atlanta. You know how this goes. But just to look at the situation, and, that was comical, but to get back to the seriousness, it's really about, how should I put it? Making sure that the people around you are going to inspire you and put you in the mind state, put you there physically to be where you want to go. You can't be around people who don't want to be around you, or who are being fake around you, or who aren't doing anything for themselves. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to look at it simply, man. Nobody wants to go to McDonald's every other day. You know what I mean? We go hang out. We go play soccer. We go play football. We go to the bar. And every day, you don't never have any money, and you're always asking for something. That's cool once, twice, maybe 3 times. But the big thing is, like, you're going to start thinking, man, like, why doesn't he go to work? Or why is it that You know what I mean? He always has weed, always got weed, but he never has any money to pay his bills. He never has any money to go out. He never has gas for his car. You know what I mean? His kids need money for this, that, and the other, and he doesn't have it. You know what I mean? I don't feel as though those are the people that you need around you. But the contrast to that is that you also have to be an inspiration, and you also have to be the uplifter around those people around you. But to contrast that, if you can't change your friends, change your friends, you know. But to get back to, I guess, like another of the topics on the list, this was a cool one, and I really liked it. I was on Peter Street, just hanging around, working at a few of the venues down there, and I want to say it was maybe one of the cooks, a waitress, her girlfriend, and, you know, a few of the guys who might have been like promoters, or maybe they were just coming in the club. And I feel like this might be the ending topic that I want to fall off on. But love and loyalty. And how I don't think that a lot of people realize that although you think love and loyalty would go together, it seems like a lot of times we feel as though those are opposite things. You know, you look at these relationships these days, and you have everybody telling each other that you love each other and you want to be with each other, nobody can replace you, etc., etc. But there's no real basis behind that, and that people need to really understand what loyalty is. But at the same time, you also have to understand what love is. But one thing that we have to do, especially in these, you know, the younger ages, we have to take into account that honesty, this goes into loyalty, honesty is the biggest part of this. And this, in a way, ties in with that cycle of hurt. You know what I mean? Maybe one thing that we should do in these relationships that we get in with different people is that we should just be, you know, honest about how we feel or how we see things. Because at the end of the day, me and Mr. Wade here were talking about it earlier. A lot of the times we put on a facade. We put on a mask. We want to be someone else, or we want to give off the presentation of being someone else, but that's not who you are. Anybody knows that you lifting weights, what happens? You get tired. You're running around, you get tired. You know what I mean? That's not something that you are necessarily built to do. That's something that you do to make yourself have more endurance or make you stronger, but that's not necessarily who you are naturally. That's what you're trying to build up to. So with that being said, with these facades, that's not who you are, you know? And when you're putting on these facades, what's going to eventually happen one day is when you're presenting yourself as someone else, you realize that that mask falls off and that the real you shows itself and that everybody around you will see that. Like the saying goes, people show their true colors, whether it be from them drinking, they say honest drunks, or when you back them into a corner or they're in an unfavorable situation. You know, some people look at the parallel of, you know, God forbid this happens to any of you guys, but somebody goes to jail and they snitch. You know, they always say at the end of the day, your true colors really come out. So one thing that we should be doing in our relationships, remind you once again, relationships are not necessarily with the people that you're intimate with. They are with anybody that you share energy with or space with. That being the real you and being honest is the best way to be, so you don't end up reverting back or showing who you truly are. You know what I mean? When you have an idea of yourself, that's something that you work up to be. But everybody knows, or everybody should know, or will see eventually who you are, you know what I mean, on a bad day. Like they say, don't catch me on a bad day. So that's one thing I want to do. But I guess I could, look through my notes here and just take into account, a few Bible verses that everybody could read, that if you just wanted to look into what I'm saying and wanted to, read it into religious doctrine. You know what I mean? Let me see. What can I use? Remember earlier we said judging earlier is you never, I guess we can look at that as don't judge a book by its cover. You don't want to condescend upon people. You don't want to make yourself narrow-minded, or you don't want to narrow yourself off from possibilities. You know what I mean? I love the acronym. Speaking of, Bible scripture, I love an acronym that I heard, and they call it POUR. You know what I mean? Most people, when they hear the word poor, they think of social economic status. You think of no money. But one thing I want to look at, I guess I want to expand your mind, is that instead of looking at poor as a lack of money, or looking at poor as just the sense of, having no money, look at it like this: passing over opportunities regularly. And I always thought that was a cool acronym. I heard that, maybe I was, I don't know, like 10, 11, 12, and I was in a church, and I forgot what church I was in, unfortunately, but that's one thing I always remember, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. But the judging others scripture was Romans 2, you know what I mean? Love, I have here wrote down, you know what I mean? 12:9, charity 12:13. Let's see, what else do I have? I even had a note about gossip earlier. Like I said, people speaking behind each other's backs or putting on that facade, but the real you coming out was Ephesians 4:29. And even, what was it? Hardship. I had another note here. It was Hebrews 12:4-12. And earlier, remember I said about, manifesting. I didn't even use the word manifestation, but I said you just want to make sure that every step that you're taking is righteous, and you're always making a good step towards positivity, and you're always making those steps to make sure that you're putting out that energy to get it back. But that would be, positive manifestation. But that would be Philippians 4:6-9. But seems like we burnt through all the topics that I had. So did you have any topics, Mr. Wade?
Not really. Only thing that comes to mind is the scare tactic that's happening around right now with the gas.
Really? Tell me more about it. I'm not too versed. I keep seeing it on.
I always just look at it as, it's the diversion. We got to look over here. Conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Right.
Red herring, throw you off.
Right. Yeah. It's been a few situations like that. I can't think of one at the moment, but they always saying like, it's always, what were they saying? They were like, what was going on? It was something going on. I think it was like, these mass shootings, and they were like, oh yeah, something like this happens, but look what else they're doing. This state might be signing this literature and nobody knows anything about it. You know what I mean? We had that video on Instagram the other day. I don't know too much about her, but it was an older African-American woman, and she had went into a chamber, you know what I mean? And she was knocking on the door, and I guess legislation was being signed, and she actually got detained for knocking on that door and trying to figure out what was going on.
Right, absolutely.
Like
we forgot 2-3 weeks prior, they bum rushed a whole state capitol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the U.S. Capitol, rather.
Man.
So how can one woman knocking on a door trump 400 bum rushing, breaking and destroying the halls of justice?
Yeah, and I tell you
halls of Congress.
I tell you another thing that people don't realize. A lot of people are speculating that we're probably about to go to war again. What are they saying? They were saying China's messing with Taiwan again. Who else is messing with who?
I think China's messing with a couple of people. I think they're over there taking charge over in Africa in certain parts.
You know, everybody's going to always try to play with Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Africa's resources are far from depleted.
Yeah, it's
You know
plenty.
what I mean? You know, if anything, we need to be more concerned about Africa's culture and building up the infrastructure to give them a voice and a leg to stand on, so these world superpowers don't consistently bully them.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't know that Yemen was having a war.
I did not know that.
You know what I mean? I said it in another episode. I'll say it again. Kurdistan is having a whole war over there. Kurdistan is dealing with religious cultural prosecution.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Over there in the Middle East. So it's actually funny that you say that. It's also funny that you say that because I definitely need to get gas right now.
Well, I mean, I'm not the what they call it, the brightest bulb in the
socket.
in the socket, and all that. But maybe I'm just ignorant in this way. But like, what are the hackers hacking when it comes to this gas thing? How does that work? What are they hacking, and what do you get, or what do they gain in doing so?
I don't even know. The only thing I could assume is that maybe like hacking something like that could have hold it for ransom, get us some of money back. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you want to distribute, maybe you want to steal a certain amount and distribute it. It's all for financial gain, but at the same time, like you were saying, it's like, what else is going on right now?
It's one of those things where you always follow the money.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are completely blind, and I'm not saying that I was necessarily against the Biden administration. I'm not saying I'm a Trump fan by any means necessary, by any stretch of the imagination. I don't like the Cheeto, but no, get the Cheeto man out of there. But I don't think the Biden administration is without its flaws either.
Absolutely.
Like I don't know if people realize, but like, has anybody been paying attention to the gun laws? Like, have anybody been paying attention to those legislations being passed or trying to be passed? Or like the the universal background checks and things like that?
Yeah. In some ways, they were kind of doing away with that, right? Trying to, or wanting to.
Yeah, well, no. They want to implement extra things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to implement more laws and rules and regulations. But what was it? Colin Noir was saying, gun laws don't necessarily make sense. Mm-hmm. Because what you're doing essentially is you're taking, how should I say it? Laws affect people who abide them.
Right.
What's the point of putting out new laws to make guns harder to obtain when people who are not, going to be those who abide by laws are going to have them regardless?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You look at New York that has extreme gun laws. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And there was just like a shooting like the other day, like a mass shooting.
Yeah, I'm going to say, yeah.
Yeah, like that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I think that honestly, I don't know. I just happened to get a whim of what was going on with the hackers' gas, and they telling people to fill up, but don't top off. In other words, if you kind of full, don't go back and get more. Let others who don't. And I've been riding around a little bit in the city, and I've seen, obviously, the gas prices going up. And lines are wrapping around the gas station now.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
And so. I don't remember. I think the last time that happened here, when gas was at a shortage, it was around 2008 or somewhere around there.
That was around the recession, wasn't it?
Is that when it was?
I think that was like
08?
around. I don't know. I want to say, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to Google that.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just an interesting, this whole. Everything seems to be a blur right now. I mean, this pandemic and I'm not blaming the pandemic, but I think in terms of the way people are just zombieing through, it seems like we're off. It seems like things are off.
The world needs to heal.
Yeah.
I definitely think that last year in 2020, the world has never been the most beautiful place. You know what I mean? And I don't say that in the sense of, you know what I mean, belittling God's creation or
Right.
not saying there isn't beauty in the world. But we all know that you know, there's, you know, with all light, there's darkness.
Absolutely.
But I feel like with COVID, a lot of it came out.
Oh, it came to the surface.
Yeah, like especially like this past like Christmas and the holidays for last year while COVID was hitting, since so many people were like, you know, not having money, like the crimes were more violent.
Yeah.
They were more rampant, you know what I mean? They were everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I definitely think the world should heal, and I'm so on the fence about these vaccinations because you got your extremists who go all the way. It's going to be a zombie apocalypse. What?
Really?
Right, but then you got the other people who are just like, man, autism. You know what I mean? Because people have been talking about vaccination before COVID.
Long before.
There have
Yeah.
been people who have
It's been ongoing. Yeah.
Absolutely. They were saying like it was the causes of like different genetic mutations, chromosome deficiencies, autisms, things of that nature. So, you know, it's scary and it's hard, but it is nice to see that the world in a way is healing. But it's kind of weird, like, you know, you go to a club in Atlanta now and you walk in with a mask and everybody's looking at you funny.
Yeah. Well, I say, you know, at least for a while, and things are starting to open up even more here in Atlanta, that your mask is no more than the price of admission.
Yeah.
It just gets you in the door.
And then you take it off.
And then you take
nobody
it off.
cares.
And no one cares.
Yeah, it's really weird.
They just want to see that you're trying or showing some kind of concern for
You
it.
know what a lot of other people don't realize is that a lot of venues in Atlanta are registered as restaurants. But they party like clubs. They got 200-300 people in there.
Is that how they get around it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Atlanta
Yeah.
never closed.
No.
I don't know how we did so well in comparison to other states.
Yeah.
But Atlanta never closed.
It never shut down.
I tell you-
It did for about a 5-week period. For 5 weeks, I remember the roads being completely like,
Yeah.
you know, what normally took
2 p.m. You
yeah,
fly, yeah.
what normally took an hour took you 15 minutes. You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because I remember during that point, I was doing residential security.
Okay.
And I'm handing out notices and playing soccer with kids.
Right.
I wasn't doing too much, but after a while, that becomes boring too. But the world needs to heal. And
Absolutely.
I think that what the worst part of it is that with so much attention going to COVID, we're not paying attention to these things. Well, you know what I mean? This hacking stuff, I think that happened like a lot of people are just now finding about it, freaking out about gas. That's nothing. That's hours and hours and hours ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's so much coverage on COVID. You know what I mean? Like I said, Kurdistan, Yemen, Taiwan, and China. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know Japan is starting to build its military infrastructure. The treaty that was signed back, from the conclusion of World War II is coming to an end.
Okay.
Japan is building, its infrastructure.
Yeah.
They've been a technology powerhouse for a while now. They have a lot of money to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
These are just some, things that we should be conscious of. What was it? Was it Iraq or Iran got too close to a naval unit? So, we fired warning shots at them.
Really?
Yeah, that's a big issue. That's the Middle East.
Yeah.
We've only been over there terrorizing them for the last 40 years.
I thought I heard Biden say that he was going to have all the soldiers out of, was it Afghanistan by September or something like that?
I mean, I would hope so, but one thing that people have to realize is if you look at a lot of the conflicts that the United States has been in, it has always been to benefit us.
Of course.
Even if you look at, what was it, World War II, we played both sides until we got affected directly, and then we decided to, okay, we're going to put our foot down. You're not going to bully us, and we're going to choose the side favorable to us.
Right.
You know what I mean? What was it, Vietnam? We ain't have no business being over there. And we found out the hard way.
The hard way.
Realistically, honestly, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, we found out the hard way too. It just looked more favorable on us. But you look at other countries like the British, they're like, yeah, we're not sending troops out there. Bombs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it just sucks because I feel like COVID is taking away from us really being politically aware of what's going on. And with that being said, it's making us less aware of what's going on in our communities too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. And and it's made us. I don't know. COVID has changed the face of. It's changed the way, to a degree, I get the way we even interact with each other now. We don't even interact the same. The handshakes aren't the same.
No.
The pounds you get them, you may get a fist bump.
Right.
You're definitely going to keep your social distance. Well, I guess it depends on where you are in Atlanta.
Right.
But it's just really weird because you see the memes when they're going to make coughing normal again. Where you can't even, you're afraid to sneeze because you don't know what people are going to think of you. And still, we're talking vaccines now, obviously, because they're kind of hurting everyone in that direction to take them. But we never fully, as people, not CDC, medics, and all that kind of stuff, the smart ones, but we never really fully understood COVID anyway. We never understood what it was, where it came from. We think we know. It said it come from over China, but we don't know. Was it a bat? Was it? We don't know.
I remember it was like airborne. It's like, no, it's not airborne.
Yeah.
No, it is
you
airborne.
You can bring it in your house and on your shoes. Like, don't wipe down every counter that you touch. It became like, what do we do? And then the thing that I've always said was, so after the 12, 14 days of quarantine, then what? We get to go back outside? Like, we didn't even know what the process was after the quarantine.
Yeah.
It was just kind of left there, like MapQuest used to do back in the day. You would use MapQuest. That's when you had to print out the directions, and it kind of dropped you off somewhere. Like, I ain't quite at my destination.
In the vicinity.
Yeah, around the corner. Yeah, exactly, the vicinity. And that's kind of how we are with this. And I guess they're trying to say that the vaccine is the end all be all. But
I mean, there's a flu vaccine, and the flu's still here.
Yeah.
Like, that hasn't gone anywhere. Like, how long's the flu been around? Like,
that's a good question. Like, centuries at this point.
Something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I feel
No.
as though it's not an end all be all. It's just something we're going to acclimate to. You know what I mean? Ultimately.
That, what we call it, the new normal, which will ultimately just become normal.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where we are. So I don't know. It's interesting though.
And to speak on that, man, it's one thing I wanted to say before we close out here, guys, is people, please be careful. Look, now, during this whole pandemic, I have not had a PUA. I have not had unemployment.
Okay.
I have not done any of that. Like, in my field, that's one of those things. Luckily, I was categorized as an essential worker and, blessed to have I wouldn't say consistent, but like different contracts that I've been able to choose from.
Yeah.
But be careful, guys, because I know like the new trend that's like, because at first it was the unemployment that was trending. And I was like, okay.
I think they're starting to shut that down now. They realize people are not going to work.
There are some people who literally at times had to get thousands of dollars of back pay. Because they're trying to sort out who's fraudulent, who's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then the next fad was PUA. Like,
what's that?
It was, what was it? Pandemic unemployment assistance. It wasn't necessarily unemployment.
Okay.
But it was something along those lines.
Gotcha.
But like a lot of people are really milking the system. Like, and they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
And it sucks because there are some people out here who really need it. And they aren't getting it. Like, there are some people out here who are like begging and pleading for help, asking for change, and have no way to get a PUA, have no way to get unemployment, and when they file, they're put in long wait lists or they get denied, and things like that because there's so many people taking advantage. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and then what's the new one? The new one is the PPP loan. Have you heard about that one?
Of course, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's going crazy.
That's bananas, and people are taking full advantage of that too. The scammers.
Yeah, and
I'm like, I don't understand how you don't understand.
It's like, okay, so cool. Like, you've been unemployed.
Yeah.
You needed a PUA. Okay, you had no money. But now you're telling me you had a business and you made some money,
Right.
and you need more money to
You
expand
need
that
more
business.
money. So we give you $20 million, and you go buy a house, 4 Bentleys.
Man.
You do all the things that. And I'm like, how do you think? Like, who do you know that got away? You know what I'm saying? That not you, but the person who's doing it. Who do you know that's
people
gotten
getting
away?
arrested now.
Yeah, like that chick is coming back to roost.
Oh man, it's so bad, and people are like, it's on social media now.
Mm-hmm.
People are like posting when like police are coming, like when it's proven fraudulence, they're coming to get you.
They're coming to get you.
Oh
Yeah.
man, so that's just something I wanted to put out there to like people just be really cautious. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Make sure that you're actually researching these problems. These assistance programs. Make sure you're using them. Once again, righteously, making sure that you're putting out positivity to get positivity, and you're not just, I'm gonna screw over the system.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely coming back to bite people now.
You're not gonna get away.
Right.
Yeah. That is a virtually impossible thing to pull.
But to close out, I guess I'll choose a variety of quotes. And much of the things that I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at to potentially quote, it's legitimately things that I guess, like lightly glanced over. But where is that quote? And this is one of my favorite, and it's something that I want to read. Now, where is it? If I can't find it, I'm going to try to remember it. Okay, cool. I can't find it, but whatever. I'm going to try to remember it. And there was a saying that goes like this. A woman came to a monk and said, I want to be happy. Or I want happiness. So what he says back to her, he says, take I out of it. And what that is selfishness. You're focused on yourself. You're not realizing there's a grander scheme. There are things bigger than you. The world is more than this you. You are but a follicle, you know what I mean, in the grand scheme of things. And then the next thing he said is, take out want. Want is desire. Desire is sin. Sin is toxic. And look at what you're left with. Happiness. So, guys, this has been Repair of the Breach. It's definitely been an adventure. But this has been Repair of the Breach, owned by Miss Pastor Debbie Curry, brought to you by WadeWorksStudios. And I'm Adolfo, Gracia, your host, and I'm signing out.
Find out more about our broadcast, Repair of the Breach, on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Thank you for tuning in.